What was your most memorable experience serving as president?
There are, so many experiences. I'd say, thinking back on it, the first thing that I really remember sticking out was my trip here to Chicago to visit the ASDS headquarters and just to see really where so much of the work goes on with Kathy and her team. And we're able to just sort of check the building out, meet all the people that are involved, and you realize how much they're doing on a daily basis. The presidents, we all come for a year and then go. And these people have been there for a long time. They've got that institutional memory, and they really keep everything running and are able to execute all the plans that the board makes. So that was really impactful. And then think about like the year, probably one of the more memorable moments was I ski race on Tuesday nights, and I was driving back from that, and we had a conference call with the presidents of the Mohs College, the AAD, and the Mohs Society about a pretty contentious issue about doing something conjointly with the plastic surgery groups. And it was hotly debated, and I think I was the only one who was in favor of this project. And so it got going, and I had to pull over, and it was snowing, and I pulled into this abandoned gas station and sat there for probably an hour talking to everyone. And at the end of the conversation, we were actually able all to come together and agree to do this, to try to put ourselves out there to plastic surgery. And then, so I felt really good about bringing all of dermatology together. And then I got out and had to scrape 2-3 inches of snow off the car, drive in. I was still nervous about the project, but in the end, it ended up being really great because we worked well with plastics and we've formed a better relationship with them. And I hope it'll go in the future.
What were the issues facing the society at the time?
The issues facing the society then and now and probably forever, are pretty consistent, where we're always having to fight for our, territory, to protect what we're doing, to make sure it doesn't get encroached, make sure that patient safety doesn't get involved or doesn't get compromised. A lot of times what happens with these insurance groups is they start limiting the people who they're taking in their insurance. And so fighting for that was really important, to advocate for our members. Other than that, it's sort of for the society, the things we were doing around that time, where we were starting up the dermatologic surgery, the cosmetic fellowships. And that was really exciting because we hadn't had fellowships before. Mitch Goldman came up with the idea, implemented it, and then I was able to bring it forward, build it up, where within, I think, 2 years we had 20 fellowship positions, and now it's up to, I think, 30. And we've entered the match, and we're training all the future leaders of the society, and it's been a fantastic thing. So it was really fun to be a part of that.
What were the most significant innovations in dermatology at the time?
Let's see. So this was only a few years ago, and I think a lot, if you look at the consumer survey and the procedure surveys, when we look at what the dermatologists and dermatologic surgeons, ASDS members, are doing, it's been pretty consistent. I think most of our members, the number one thing we do is remove skin cancer. So that's always been and hopefully always will. Fillers, toxins, body contouring, all that was going strong. And at the time, we're just starting to do some of the newer stuff that's coming out now, like body toning, where they're stimulating muscles to try and tone muscles, build up core strength, build muscle strength. And then also this new stuff, nanopulse technology, where we're putting little electric pulses in to kill off cells in a non-thermal way. Instead of heating them up or cooling them down, we're just poking holes in them and letting them die sort of a natural death. And when they do that, they actually start to die and create an immune response. And that immune response then can protect them against future insults. So there's a lot of sort of new technologies that are continuing to evolve every year. It's been fun to be a part of.
Okay. Who was your most memorable patient and why?
Boy, one of the nice things, particularly about Mohs surgery, is you sit there with the patient for a long time, so you do get to know them. And what you find out is that everybody has a story. So when I was asking other people, what's your favorite patient or most memorable patient, I thought, I wonder what mine is. And there's so many, but one of the ones that really sticks out was this couple who had been coming in, an elderly couple, very cute. And I first started seeing them separately, didn't even realize it. And then, I don't know, several visits in, I just started talking to her and asked her, how did you guys meet? And it was the best story. She said she grew up in Germany, in Frankfurt, and after World War II, she was young, well, I guess 16 or 17, something like that. The U.S. occupied that area. And she said there was this U.S. soldier that was patrolling her area and shooed, she and her girlfriends away several times, and then all of a sudden was always patrolling her street, back and forth. And one day he came to the door and asked her father if he could take her to the U.S. Army holiday dance. And he begrudgingly agreed. And they went to the dance together and then have been together ever since. He brought her back to the U.S. They married, and she said, has had a wonderful, life here in the U.S. And, that always stuck out to me as just the sweetest story, how, it's not the us versus them, which we're so used to and polarized, in the country right now. So it was really nice and sweet to see that, how they have been able to make it on their own for so long.
And looking back at your career, is there anything you would change or do differently?
When I look back at my career or life in general, I don't really want to change anything, and sort of a glass half full type of person. And I think, oh man, if I went back in a time machine and tinkered with anything in any way, a little sliding door thing one way or the other, something that is existing now that I love so much might not be there. So I probably wouldn't change much of anything. I started at Boston University, taught there for 8 years, and loved every minute of it. And then got together with a group of people that I really love and respect, and we started an academic private practice that has really been, I think, better than any of us thought. We're able to continue the research and do all the things we love about academic medicine, but without the red tape of a university-based hospital. So I wouldn't change that for the world.
What advice would you give today's young dermatologic surgeons?
So the advice I give to the young dermatologic surgeons today, because we run a course for all the residents, is sort of the anti-Nancy Reagan, where she said, just say no. I always say, just say yes. Say yes if someone asks you to do something. I think a lot of times people will, say, oh, I'm too busy right now. Life's a little too crazy, but in 5 years or 3 years or something, it's going to settle down. And it never does. So there's no better time than right now to do anything. And one of my mentors, Barbara Gilchrist, told me when I started, she said, what you do in your first 5 years will probably determine the rest of your career. And I think she was right, for everyone that I've seen since. So I tell them, just say yes, get involved, say yes, do the project, do it well, and you have no idea. You never know where that's going to lead you. I look back on my career, and I certainly had no intentions, desires, aspirations to become president of the ASDS. Just got asked to do something, said yes, did it. Got asked to do something else, and you just keep getting asked. If you do it and you do a good job, you'll be asked to do more. You end up on committees, and then you end up on board of directors, and you just keep getting more and more involved and engaged. And you get so much out of that, being part of the society. You gain so many friends through that I would never change it.
What are your predictions for the future of the specialty?
Oh, I think dermatology, the specialty, is going to be fine and continue to, thrive for years. People will always have skin. Something's always going to go wrong with the skin, so there's no one better positioned than dermatologists to do that. There's no one who has a better knowledge base. And I think as long as we continue to be the innovators, continue to push the envelope, do the research, control the data, dermatology will be just fine. When I was a resident, I remember being told, dermatology is going to be over, in the next 5 years, it's all going to collapse. And it never has. It just continues to grow because we keep pushing things forward.
What advice do you have for ASDS leadership in serving its membership in the future?
Well, I think, what we try and do with the ASDS Board of Directors is just never be content, and it's a good sort of philosophy in life in general. Just always be critical, examine yourself, examine where we are, and really try and push everything forward. Not just continue doing the things that work. That's important, but always look at the things that we could do better. So even things that are going well, there's always a way to make it a little bit better. And I think with the board, one of the most important things we do is look at that through that lens, find out the gaps, things that we need or the specialty needs, and then direct research that way. So we have special funds for it, and we heavily support it to get the data we need, because we really need to make sure that we control the data, because data drives decisions for the policymakers, and we need to continue to build that up so we have the data that we know is accurate.